Are you ready for this?
You ready for
Let's
this?
do it.
Y'all ready for this?
And that's how I think that's how it starts.
Existential jock jams.
That is the beginning. So yeah, we're here with Not Parker. Not Parker is a friend of mine for a long time. Say hi, Parker.
What's up, everybody? This is not Parker.
So Parker was a big part of the beginning of this conversation and how this whole thing got started, because everybody who listens to all these and remembers all the things I said in the first one. Just kidding. I'm talking about Joel's parents. When Joel's parents remember from the first one, when I talked about the conversation that I had with Parker one day. Sad Parker. I made fun of you in that first one too. You heard it when I made the sad Parker voice.
I did hear that. Yeah.
And then what's funny is then this will be a callback where people will go and reference it, because I was like, I'm gonna do impersonation of Parker in that, and I did it, and it sounded just fucking like him. Exactly. And if people go back and listen to that, then they hear him now, they'll be like, oh my god, you fucking nailed it. It was almost like he was in that first one, but I was like, and he called me. He's like, what's the point of everything? See now, you say.
Yeah, do you need me for this?
See,
you got
there
this.
You go. He's got it. But no, I mean, you called and said that, and that's when I therapied myself with you, and I said, I don't know, that shit's infinite, and like we don't know shit, and there's got to be more to this. And I don't know. I don't think it was much deeper than that, because between the two of us, that's probably as far as it goes. But that was the whole like beginning of this thing. And then we had brunch, and you held my hand, and you told me you love me, and you never called me again.
That's so typical.
I was a dating man in my mid-30s. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. I mean, that's the past. We don't need to bring that up. You've experienced two of these so far, and you've kind of give me some feedback. So we're gonna learn as we do it. I think we're the first one very conversational. Second one. Mostly Kai, but I think it's why we have to follow up with number 2 to figure out the second time talking to him, to kind of get into those deeper questions about things, so we can figure out like what does that room look like when you guys are all doing the ayahuasca, and like what's that shaman wearing? Because I picture like his butt cheeks are out and he's wearing like a loincloth. Is that what shamans wear? I'm looking at both of you guys. You guys are just staring. I'm just fucking around. You're like, was that offensive? Did I offend shaman? I mean, I don't. If there's anybody I don't want to offend, it's a shaman.
I have no way of knowing. I would love to hear what Kai thinks about that. I mean, I understand. I think I walked away from that thinking I would love to hear more about like the visuals, the experience of it, the aesthetics of the whole experience. Like, am I in the jungle? Am I laying on a floor all the time? Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think those are the next steps. Maybe it's because I watched Wayne's World 2 in the recent past. That sounded weird. With my children.
With the Wayne stock?
Yeah, and then the weird naked Indian shows up.
Oh, that's right.
Did you feel like his butt cheeks needed to be hanging out? So like that's what I think of like when I hear the shaman thing. I don't know. I'm sure he's in jeans and got a pack of Marlboros or some shit. I don't know. Is that also offensive? Is everything I say offensive? I don't fucking know. I'm just saying shit. So
a little bit, but it's also funny. So.
Okay, well, as long as I don't want to be canceled by Joel's parents. So moving on from that recap of episode 1 and 2, on to episode 3 with Mr. Not Parker. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you grew up and how we got here today?
Sure. Yeah. I had not really a religious family, but I think like a family that felt that they needed to be religious. So there was church in my life, but it was a thing that we kind of sporadically went to. You have your holiday obligations, but my aunt and uncle, my uncle's father also ran a Southern Baptist church. So there was also this like inter-family pressure to go to church. And that was kind of my, like most of my like younger memories of church and God are like watching people do call to the altars or every Sunday watching this same woman just bawl her eyes out and lay down at the altar and beg for forgiveness in front of everybody.
But
No.
you didn't have like religious grandparents or anything that bred into that? Or you just had like
No, it was all, I mean, kind of my mom and my dad, and the, I think, interfamily pressures of needing to also, I'm going to say it was like performative religion, and it was very genuine for my mom and my dad, but they only did the acts when it had some sort of like social pressure to it.
Oh, interesting.
I think they call it Sunday morning Christians. I think that's a term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair weather Christians, I've also heard. But I separately had my own journey with it. I got hooked on those Left Behind books, and they scared the shit out of me. And
serving their purpose.
Yeah, it did its job.
Who
and
gave
that
those
worked
to you?
on me for a while.
How did you get to them?
I think my mom started reading it first, and then it was a popular book. So I don't know. I must have just grabbed it one day and read it. And I read them all. I don't remember shit about it, but I read them all.
What was the gist? I mean, I think I saw a Simpsons episode that referenced it because
break it down.
The Simpsons.
Yeah, like I mean the gist is that like the rapture happens and like God suddenly takes everybody to heaven with him all at once, and the book is about the people that are left behind and have to deal with the fact that God left them. The first book is a little fascinating to think about your loved ones just suddenly disappearing, and all they've just left their clothing, and people have just been sucked out of vehicles and shit like that. But otherwise it's just doomsday, straight, scary Christian material.
Before we move on from this, I want to also point out that this book was a sensation that took over the nation of Christianity for a very long time. And the rapture is literally not in the Bible. It's in that book. And it all comes from that book.
What?
Yes. The rapture is not biblical.
Confirmed? Looking at Parker.
Yeah.
Looking at Parker.
For real.
Confirmed. Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What the fuck? What year was this book written?
That's a good question.
Because I feel like,
97? I want to say 90, between 95 and 99, I would say.
So some motherfucker made up the rapture.
Yes.
I hope that person's rich because they're scaring the shit out of people, and those churches are getting paid and not taxed. And this guy's probably not getting a fucking dime.
Well, somebody also wrote the Bible too. So if that tells you anything about how powerful men's words are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just fucking blew my mind.
Make a lot of money starting a religion.
So that scared you. How old were you then? Like 97. So you said,
yeah, I guess like 90. I guess like 15 or so. Yeah, middle school to high school age is kind of when I was into those. And then I don't know what was the catalyst to it, but I just sort of went through a phase of rejecting all of that, not through any necessarily like wisdom or thoughts, but I don't know, maybe a rebellion phase of some sort. And I came back to it in my junior year of high school because of a girl who got me to go to church again. And over the course of like 3 years, I eventually was like leading the worship band. I was going off to seminary to go be a pastor or a Christian wizard. And and that's when things got, I guess, interesting, or that's when things got real.
Christian wizard. I love that.
Yeah.
I need a new band name, so I think that's gonna be it. Nah, that would be deceitful, I think. I mean, it's interesting that you just dismissed it. Not surprising that someone in high school could fall back into a trap because of a lady. I'm sure that's not an uncommon thing. I mean, I remember in like the fucking 5th grade buying a New Kids on the Block tape or something. So and trying to learn the songs. So like this girl I rode the bus with so I could be cool because I mostly had Weird Al tapes at the time.
The things we do.
I have many other experiences like that, like watching Aladdin or something. Like I didn't want to see that.
I can show you the world.
Fuck! See, look at the trauma it causes. I just pissed a little just because of that. Oh man! So where did you take that? Okay, now you're dating, you're back in church. You're trying to lead the band. Is that what it means? You kind of want to preach shit to people. You feel
worship
like
leader.
You're doing good. You're going to save their souls. Your parents are on board with this. They think this is a good thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, my mom thought it was awesome. I think there was a little bit of a concern that I was not choosing a path that was going to be very lucrative, but I'd be rich in God. So I got to like the upper level Bible courses, and I have to credit my Bible study teachers, professors at Anderson University for always pushing everybody to question. There was never, like, I never felt that it was a clear indoctrination path, at least in the Bible and religion areas. They pushed people to question and to, challenge their assumptions and to read the book and not just repeat pithy things that they heard on Sundays. So I got all the way up to the 300 level courses and basically my last year. And I don't know, I got to a point where I just had heard enough, and it just clicked for me one day, like, oh, we just made all this up. Like, this has all been made up by very powerful men over, hundreds of years. And we have this adaptation of it right now. And it wasn't like this hundreds of years ago. It's not going to be like this hundreds of years now, but this is all a man-made way to explain our existence.
Was there anything specific about it that got you there? Was it talking about the history? Do you have any specific that like drove you there? Because I think that's probably the most interesting piece.
I'm interested in that, especially
more people need to read that.
That same sort of thing happened to me too. So
I think a big part was like learning about all the other myths around, or the other messiahs around the time of Jesus. Like, Jesus is not the only person who is claimed to have died and rose from the dead 3 days later. There were many of them around his time. And Jesus rose to popularity primarily because, these guys were mostly walking around pretending to be magicians, and Jesus was the only one who didn't charge people to come see him do magic tricks. And so he got a huge following, among, frankly, like degenerate people and those lower in society. But that was powerful enough for his story to carry on and be so powerful to his followers.
Oddly enough, this podcast is free, and those are the people that we're targeting at.
There we go.
Not Joel's parents. Hashtag.
Not my parents.
No.
Stop listening.
No. Quality folks. Quality folks. Studying religion, what little I did in college, and finding out that like a lot of it, and studying mythology, because that was kind of part of like that career path at a non-secular school, was like to make sure that you had all those different pieces. But yeah, like learning that there's very similarities between all these like kind of creation myths and these Messiah figures, and learning that, which kind of just fueled my already like building atheism that I had from just growing up and just not buying it. But
so like in the Mennonite church, there was a lot of people that it seemed like it was a competition to be holier than thou. Very much like the lady doing the altar calls, like you were saying, going up there and repenting every Sunday and making a scene about it. Like it seemed like a social ladder that was being climbed. And then I started to notice the segregation of other people who weren't in our little clique or niche of churchgoers. And then I ended up seeing that was basically the entire surrounding area of the county that I lived in. And if you weren't with a church, then you were pretty weird and looked at differently, which was strange. And that's why I wanted to get the fuck out of my entire area of Indiana and go somewhere else.
Where I grew up, I didn't feel a pressure from like those around me or feel any strange for having different beliefs. But when I did move to Indiana, that really took shape. So, to this day, like every company I work at, the company that Eric and I last worked at, the first company meeting we had, we started it with a prayer, and this was like a 60-person public company.
Wow.
And that's just, that's a thing that's, a little bit expected here. And people don't speak up about having other types of beliefs that maybe don't fit into that. And we just kind of accept it as a norm.
I didn't know that, and I'm glad that didn't happen while I was there.
Wow. Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
That is crazy. I've never worked anywhere that people did that.
I don't know. I don't know if you can get away with that today.
So you're there. You've read too much. They've taught you to question.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've seen things online where like there are priests and like religious folk that don't necessarily take it all very literally and then see it as stories. And I think it's kind of the minority. Yeah. But I think it's interesting that those people can exist and still be people that don't necessarily take it literally.
Well, and I, for a while, like I resisted calling myself or thinking about myself as like agnostic or atheist because I thought like, okay, if all of these similar stories exist, maybe that speaks to some sort of truth, some sort of universal truth, and we're all just making up stories around it. And I'm like bargaining with myself a bit, like I can still believe, I can still go to church, even though I don't think that like God is the God we talk about in this church, or that he necessarily cares about these 10 commandments versus these tenets or whatever. Mm-hmm. And another thing that kind of shocked my system in college was our university was sort of the host for this particular sect of Christianity, denomination, not sect. And each year, like all of the pastors would, come to that area and they would have their little convention. And one year they did a survey among everybody that was anonymous, and they asked like how many of them still believe in God, and something like 20% came back and said they'd lost faith like years ago, but they continued to preach and they continued to lead churches. And yeah, that blew my mind.
Now, that's wild to hear that somebody who is preaching stopped believing, but still kept doing it like it was an act.
Yeah.
Is it a job? I mean, it's a job, right?
Well, I mean,
the more their career.
That's your skill set. That's what you got. Like, are we gonna do? I know people fear that they're gonna be in fast food or some shit.
Performative, as you were saying. I mean, well, the more you read the Bible and find inconsistencies with things or your own belief system, like how could God be this petty and jealous? Would a deity really act like that? And then you start questioning why people are mistreated and why certain individuals have a door into heaven, why some denominations might not have a door into heaven.
Yeah.
Separation for me.
The fact that like there are similarities, it makes you wonder if like it came from some sort of root story that maybe had been true, but like it's so hard to have any faith in that when everything's just been so corrupted that you don't know what was good about it at some point, right? Like I don't know, but you're also in a religion.
But even in my bargaining with that, though, eventually I realized the myths that I've heard are Western myths. There's like a whole, like an Eastern culture that doesn't, just create messiahs the same way that Western religions do. And yeah, there's a lot more world out there and belief out there than the things I tried to draw similarities to in order to keep believing and not ostracize myself from my like in group.
So if you are all in, that far in life, and then I mean, what does that do? Because before that, like I'm good. I'm down with the JC. Yeah. Heaven's in my future. Everything's all right. Then one day it's just not. Was it that shocking? Did you have like, was that your first sense of like real dread, or like was it gradual, or was it like some sort of immediate epiphany?
Or was there dread?
I would say it was like a series of epiphanies. Like I can recall many times where I'm like, oh, that like I'm seeing beyond the veil here a little bit, and I need to think about this more deeply. And then enough of those stack up that it forces you to change a little bit. I don't know, honestly, though, if I would have been as upfront about what I was thinking and feeling. I was still going to this church and like playing every Sunday and singing in front of all these people while at the same time thinking about all this. And I only stopped because the girl I was with at the time basically outed me to her family. And then it started a whole social apocalypse, I guess.
How do you get outed? Like, how does that work? What does somebody say to out you? Yeah, like.
Yeah, she got upset with her parents at dinner one time and was like, "Oh yeah, well, Parker's an atheist." And I think possibly the most upsetting thing she could have said to them. Yeah.
Wow.
And not something that I would have ever shared with these people. So yeah, that kind of thing then forced me to, okay, now like my church leaders are coming to me and being like, "Hey, we heard this thing, what's going on with you?" All of my friends are asking, and I'm having to have these very like intense conversations with them about why, like, I think it's okay that they believe what they believe, and I don't, and I don't feel like I can live truthfully and continue on this path. I mean, you can imagine how close community is when you're going to, church with them multiple times a week and you're doing Bible studies with them and singing together with them. Like just the act of singing with other people is so powerful and bonding. And then it's just like gone. They don't.
So you were excommunicated, correct?
Not like kicked out. Like they would continue to invite me to things, but it was now the only thing we talked about was like going to church or like getting back in the faith or like challenging something I said before. Or we don't have a relationship anymore. They're just like trying to prove me wrong or bring me back into the fold. Yeah, it's dehumanizing in a lot of ways.
What about your professors and stuff that kind of taught you to be open? Did you have to talk to them, and what kind of response did you get from them? Because at least if anything, that's the people that should probably still have your back somehow.
I do remember talking to one of them and just like trying to kind of like hoping he would help me logic back into faith in some way. And I'll never forget, he just shrugged and he's like, "We all have to wrestle with these things." And yeah, like, well, it's fair. What else do you say?
Do you get the sense that maybe he was just in there for the career? Like maybe he was the one that was open because he might have already lost that, but that's his job. You never know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe. I don't think so with that guy in particular, but
do you have any relationships with anybody from there at all? Or did they all just abandon you?
Yeah, all my relationships stopped with them. But when my mom passed away suddenly, lots of those folks showed up for me, and even the lady I was helping, who was the official like worship leader of this church, she played piano for my mom at her funeral. So, I mean, they came back in some ways, but she also, as a parting gift, like shared with me a book of just like all of the songs we had sang in church together. So it's always like a little bit dripped in.
If you don't mind me asking, what denomination was it?
Church of God.
Church of God. Okay. Yeah, so I was gonna say, because they're like that's one of them too that are on the list of kind of the cult sort of churches, and like the behavior of the excommunication. Like, tell me you're not a cult, but tell me you're a cult at the same time. Like that's
What else makes it? Is that really the part that makes it feel like culty? The fact that it like has like a friend trap, or what else that leads it to be like considered that, I guess?
Well, there's other people that I know, and there's a whole world of them on TikTok talking about this stuff too. But like just people that I've known that have talked about their experiences are very similar to that. And if you like people who had pregnancies and were like just like no longer talked to anymore by their friends, they lost all their friends because of that. That's happened to so many people from like the hometown area as well. It's pretty common to Like if you're supposed to be preaching about love and bringing people in, like the whole separating yourself from the people who are sinners doesn't make really any sense.
Yeah. Well, spoiler alert, if most religions just kind of a cult. Yeah, they'll have their tendencies. Well, a lot of them. Looking back, do you feel like it was culty? Or, I mean, I don't know. Because you've only been with one church. That's the church you know.
Yeah, in some ways. Like because I was also engaged in the like summer camps, and I think those are the areas where I felt it was most culty. Because when you're stuck with people for a whole week and all you talk about is this one thing, and like it was, lots of those call to the altars again, and like I have sort of like read and listened to podcasts about other cults, and there's a lot of like key differences for sure. Like they're not trying to ostracize me from my friends and family while I'm in the church, and that's a key characteristic of cults. But when people look at or hear about cults and they're like, well, I would never fall for that, and I'm kind of like, that's bullshit. Like we all feel really good when you're singing the same song with a room full of people and you believe it has a higher purpose. Like it's really intoxicating and enticing.
What year are you in college then?
I think I was a senior, but I took a victory lap because of all of this. I needed to, because I had all these like Bible and religion credits, and then suddenly I had to pivot it to a degree that was going to make money. So, so I had to take another year.
At the same school though? You stayed at the religious school? Like even though?
I did. They had a really good business school for a Bible, a religious private school. So I did want to say that, like, in spite of like, I knew that what I was going through was my own journey. And the thing that broke my heart about so many of the conversations that I had with folks after the fact, when they were asking like, why don't you believe this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Is I could tell that, they were heartbroken, a lot of them. But another part of it was that, like, if I didn't believe in what they believed, my belief was a rejection of theirs. I was saying that, like, you're wrong. Like, I went to 3 years of this university and I figured out you're wrong. And I never felt that way. I still don't feel that way. I'm not like, there are the Richard Dawkins of the world and the Christopher Hitchens who are like more militant atheists. And I don't know, maybe I'm too Midwestern for that. I feel like everybody has their own journey with this. And I still do believe there are like universal truths that we all sort of reach to and can agree on. So anything I say here, I'm not saying to anybody you're wrong about what you think or you feel. Like I have had very powerful experiences where I thought that God was talking directly to me, where I thought I was seeing like miracles. Yeah. And I those experiences I, in a lot of ways, still believe are real. But
what context do you feel that in now? To go from believing all these things to like looking back on those things that were meaningful? Because it sounds like you didn't like convince yourself that you were just like all culted up and like and not.
No,
you've still felt something from it, which I think we you and I have talked about before, and I think we've said on here before. It's like some of it doesn't matter what was real as long as it meant something to you, which I think is also like kind of like the basis of fucking doing this to begin with. It's like I don't want to judge people for shit, because if it's meaningful, then it's something.
Yeah, I don't know that I could say that better. That's
why I run this shit. That's why I fucking have the podcast.
I can relate to having the experiences and feeling moved and feeling like God has spoken to me. And that's I do believe in God still. I just don't believe in religion or the Bible. I think it's a guideline or like a good story for some good practices, but then also there's a lot of separation practices in there and division and elitism. But like I still feel spiritually connected, and I have had experiences like just even like a couple of months ago, like on a bus, I was having like a really, really like crazy heart thing that was going on, and I chugged a monster and had to run to make the bus. And when I got on, I thought I was gonna fucking die. And I was like literally sitting in a seat and like about to faint. I was like sweating cold. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. And then I was like, please God, just stop, calm my racing heart. And I'm like saying a prayer to myself. And then this lady who's just been talking nonsense in front of me in a wheelchair on the bus changes her story to talking about, well, I just don't drink coffee anymore before I get on the bus because it makes my heart race. And I'm like, what did she just say? And so I just started listening to what she was saying, and just like everything started to calm me. I was like, all right, you're talking to me through somebody else. That's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like an experience you had before. Heart racing, feel like you're going to die.
Right.
And sometimes you do. And sometimes you come back.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You gotta eat the whole box.
Yeah. Everybody, reference episode 1. The concept of God changes, I think, after you do these things, right? Like, could you still say, like, you still believe in God, but like what you think that is probably is what's
way
different, right?
Way different than, not a man in the sky.
I guess, like, when you said, I mean, you didn't say it, your bitch ass girlfriend said it when she outed you. I'm sure she's lovely. But like, said you were an atheist.
We've all grown.
Yeah. Is that what you would have labeled yourself at the time? Like, you just gave it all up and like, it's all bullshit, or what would you have said?
No, at the time, I would have said, like, I may be an atheist for this particular religion or this particular God, but I don't know. I think at the time I would have said I'm not arrogant enough to think I know whether there is or is not a God or an end or anything after the end. So I probably would have said I was agnostic.
So she basically just spoke for you and was maybe angry at her parents and wanted to just make them feel like most teenagers do, to rebel against their parents, sort of like, I'm going to date the most hard dude with a motorcycle and he's in a gang. Like,
yeah, and you just get to be the like, atheist.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you're the atheist.
Still a fucking great guy, but guess what? His beliefs, fuck that guy. From your feelings of, now I'm an agnostic, I still have like these feelings because I felt like I've had these experiences with something bigger. Where do you take that as far as, like, were you on a journey to find something else and feel like you needed to fill that void? Or was it just something you put behind you and put work in its place, or something else?
Yeah, I had a few people in my life that spoke positively of like psychedelic experiences enough to like interest me in reading more about it. Because it was so, I mean, my dad was an addict, and I was terrified of drugs and alcohol. And I didn't drink alcohol until I was 21. And I didn't like, to me, drugs was just drugs. There was no like category. There wasn't like, here are the fun ones and here are the ones that make your head feel better. I mean,
you are like, I think, I mean, you're a little bit younger than me, but you're still part of like a generation that was like part of Nancy Reagan and Just Say No that she built. Where I remember like watching videos in the library of that guy, and everybody, if you haven't seen this video, I felt like everybody's watched it before, where the guy does LSD and then jumps out the window, or maybe he thinks he's a glass of orange juice. I can't remember what it was. It was something weird like that. So yeah, I think and my brother was the same way, where he did not drink until he was 21 for similar reasons.
I gotta say, your campaign is way better than Nancy Reagan's. I mean, Just Say No versus Drugs or Drugs. I mean, I'd wear a Drugs or Drugs t-shirt any day.
So no, I had enough. I read enough about it, and had enough friends that like took psychedelic drugs and didn't die, and spoke of it positively, and even some of my own family members who I think got more spiritual after taking a psychedelic. And that was just like fascinating to me. It was like, okay, here's this thing they've always told you, like, this is bad, but I'm seeing it make positive changes in people's life.
Yeah.
So I think, I listened to the episode with Kai, and I think there's a lot there that I kind of like I heard him talking about it as medicine, and there was a lot of that kind of language that I was really into at the time. And eventually I was just like, I'm ready to try it. So I had somebody give me mushrooms and took them and didn't die, and it was like kind of scary, kind of weird. It was all right.
This is after college or like while you're doing your victory lap?
Well, after college, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you at one point on those experiences with mushrooms think you were going to either die or not come back to being normal again while on them?
Not those first few. I have had those since, and those are not fun. But they're important to go through.
Yes,
sometimes. But yeah, no, before I took it, I was like, what if I am my dad was also undiagnosed for a long time, schizophrenic. And I was like, what if this is the thing that will activate that in my brain and I'm just lost forever? And, you can't unring a bell. I can't untake this drug. Yeah. And I worried about that for years kind of. And it's only now that I'm like, that's kind of bullshit. Nobody takes, like, some people do smoke pot and go way off the rails, but it's like very, very few.
Nothing earth shattering with those, just a good time. And that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, I think I was resistant to take a lot of it because I sort of thought that I'm still young, my brain is maybe fungible. Like I didn't really have any interest in being somebody that was like, I don't know, you see like weed culture people or like Rasta people or whatever, and that's Rasta's it's a different thing, but you know what I mean, like weed culture stuff, and you're like, that's not my thing. It's a little strange in some ways, and like that, I think there's some, like, you can look at people and be like, they're into mushrooms or an acid, and they've got like that whole vibe to them. And
I've been to fish
shows.
Wasn't
really.
I know. I've been to a few fish shows.
Thank you. I was looking for the words.
I see them. They're there. They're spinning. I mean, they spin and then they spin some more. It's pretty awesome.
They're spinning. I love that. I did eventually take what, and I now know is called like a heroic dose. And at the time, I just thought like, this isn't working. Yum. Like
that's
did that a couple times. And then it kicks in, and yeah, I thought I was already dead. I thought like I've already seen beyond. I'm in it. Like my family is going to be so embarrassed when they read the news articles tomorrow and find out that I died by taking too much of this. And then like you legitimately, I think, go insane at a high enough dose, and then your mind just sort of like rebuilds itself, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you saying you went insane?
I legitimately, like, at a high enough dose, I legitimately felt like I'd lost my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nothing in reality worked the way it should. It's just like infinite association. Every thought you have, it's just a string of consciousness that connects to another thing over and over and over. And you try to like grasp onto one piece of reality. Like this wall is solid, and you go to touch the wall and your hand moves through the wall. And you can't even, I can't even lean on the wall. Like it's every association with reality is gone.
Do you feel like that was like an experience thing? Like, cause you'd not done it before, that maybe that like somebody who had done that often would have appreciated that and controlled it?
I think that what I experienced that time was ego death, and that I was resisting it. I was too worried about dying, and I was holding on to life and holding on to my ego not dying too much. And if I had just let go, everything would have been okay. I wouldn't have been having this panic about being insane. And because I've had experiences like that since, and when it's happening, I go, I know I've experienced this before, and I just need to kind of breathe in, breathe out, and let go. And it's scary to do that, because you do at some level still think like, I might die. Maybe I'm overdosing and I'm dying. This is too scary to talk about. This is not going to convince people to try mushrooms.
Yes, I just wanted to definitely confirm this was mushrooms and not acid, but I have...
This was LSD.
This was LSD? Okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've definitely on mushrooms had an experience where I thought that I was dying, but disconnected from my mind a bit. And like, you're right, it is a part where you're letting go and you're connecting to like spiritual worlds in a sense. You're like seeing yourself outside of your own body even sometimes, and not really actually like astral projection or anything like that, but like you can separate your mind from your body in a way that you see the world and reality differently, and take in concepts and things that will like answer questions that you've had your whole entire life. And then by the time you're back to normal, you forget how you connected those dots sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
But they make sense when you're on them. And it's like, if you could only write them down or think to write them down.
And by ego death, can you explain that a little bit? I mean, I know I've heard it before and I read about it, but like, what does that mean in your view?
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, I don't know the like technical definition of it anymore, but I think of it as, it's that, again, the detachment from your own personal history of like, I am Parker, this is my dog, this is my home, and all of that. You lose all that association with the things that make you you. And you can you recognize that it's happening. And like I said, you can try to go like, no, like I'm going to look at my license. I'm just going to keep reading my license, or like, I'm going to go look in the mirror, never look in the mirror. Try it, like I'll hold on to the part that makes me me. Ego death is just the elimination of that for a short period of time. And some associations, I think people hear ego death and they're like, hell yeah. That's where the truth is. And others think that's the most terrifying moment of my life.
It is.
But that's you, like when you take a breath and let go and like allow what you're doing to kind of do its thing, right? Is that part of it? I
think so. Yeah. I don't think I'm very good at it, to be honest. Like the few times that I've had a substance that took me there, like I always go to like latching on and fear and anxiety about my life. And I think another key aspect is exactly what Joel was saying. Like you are sort of like connecting with everything else, and that becomes so overwhelming. And so in a lot of ways, you feel more connected to everything for a short period of time. And then suddenly you're grasping for what you feel is like left of your sanity or your consciousness or what makes you you.
Very hard to let go of we could just call it the material world, the superficial world. And to clarify, I last year had an ego death without drugs. And it was because I was literally having like a mental breakdown, which I needed, and anxiety from being, I'm not going to say abandoned, but I was in a place by myself that I didn't expect to be by myself. And it was for a whole week. And I sort of lost grips with like all the anxiety and stuff that I had been dealing with, and the perceptions of myself that I had been holding on to my entire life that I needed to actually flush down the toilet and let go. And so it definitely improved my life having this ego death happen. And my perceptions changed forever because of that. It's like one of those things, once you become aware of something, you can never again become unaware of it. You can, like when we take the magic glasses off, we can never put them back on.
Do you feel like you had that at all? I mean,
that was backwards. Sorry. You put them on, you can never take them off.
Glasses do both things. I'll give you that. So, no, but when you had your death experience, do you feel like, was that an ego death to some degree, or didn't it, or just not all of it?
That was a completely different thing for me, in sense of feeling and spirituality connections.
I would wonder if some people have that experience at that time too. That's why I'm asking. I have no idea.
So, Eric, have you had any experience like that, or I forget like our psychedelic histories?
Wait. This isn't where you come in and fucking interview me. What the fuck do you think this is? This is my fucking house, bitch. No, I think it's funny. I was going to bring that up, is that you said, don't look in the mirror. And I don't know if that's true. Like, I felt like that was one of the best things I've ever done.
I always did that too. Like,
I really do. If there's anything that made me feel like I was a vessel, and like not like just like it was like the Matrix, like when he's like, "Oh, I'm sick of wearing this meat suit." See, that's another perfect impersonation by me of Hugo Weaving as that guy in the Matrix. It's like a Matrix. No, actually, that sounds like the guy from Vincent D'Onofrio from Men in Black when he's wearing the Edgar suit.
Yeah.
Fuck, I got two references in one. Fucking, this is the pop culture podcast. But no, but I felt like that. I felt like this. That's the first time I've ever felt like this is not me. I felt like I was looking at something else, and I felt like, and maybe I was a little melty in the face. That's fine. I know that's supposed to happen, and that's why they tell you not to look. But I felt like I was seeing through myself, and that's probably one of the bigger chemically induced experiences for me, right? I did that quite a bit, but most of it was uneventful and just five dudes losing their mind in a room. But that was when that happened, and I think I only did it once or twice, but where I looked in the mirror, but that was big for me, and it changed things. I never really had that experience on any sort of fungus, but yeah, an LSD, yes, definitely.
There are a couple of things I could say about mirrors. One being everybody should look up why people cover mirrors when people die, or why mirrors are covered up in houses and things like that. There's a spiritual world connection to those, and magic connections and things like that. The ghost world, all kinds of things like that. But then also our vision, our eyes. You can look at anything. You can look at things two ways. You can look at it and you can look through it. And when you look through it, your eyes move to do it. And that's how you can look at magic eye books and that sort of thing. If you look at a mirror, you don't actually usually ever look at the mirror. You're looking at yourself. You're looking at your reflection. But if you do that magic eye at a mirror, you look through the fucking mirror. Try it sometime.
That's a good way to put it. I've never heard that description.
When we're on acid or mushrooms, our eyes are constantly rotating around.
Yeah.
And so that's what causes us to see our skin moving and shit like that. But if you do that while you're on acid, you're looking through the mirror. And I literally think that you can be contacted or approached when you're in those states, I think. So spirit world, engage. Possibly.
I do feel like I've been spoken to in a lot of ways through that. And when you're looking beyond yourself in a mirror in a well-lit bathroom, usually you see I am covered in light. I am light emanates from me. I'm another creature in this world, and forgetting a little bit about the particulars of me and the bullshit I have to do at work, and appreciating just being a human being. It's fucking great.
I mean, those are things that are really deep things to say, and I appreciate that. But I still feel like Joel just told everybody. You told everybody not to do mushrooms in a really weird way, and you just told everybody if you magic eye the mirror, you might see the schooner. I mean sailboat. Mallrats reference. Okay. I don't know if that's what you were saying. Are you just saying on the drugs that you can magic eye the mirror, or if I do that now, I'm going to see some shit?
I'm not saying you're necessarily going to see some shit, but you can do this. You don't have to be on the drug to magic eye your eyes at anything.
You know what? I hope that, and maybe I should edit this in a way that it just encourages people to go magic eye the mirror, because I would love to think that everyone who listens to this, including your parents, end up going to the mirror right after this and start magic eyeing the shit out of it.
It's just interesting to think.
I'm gonna try it now. Yeah,
you can look at something, but you can also see through it.
Yeah,
people, mirrors, objects, whatever.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just the most shallow person here. I'm aware of that. I'll make jokes about all of it and fucking make it sound dumb, but it's probably cool. I don't know, but I like that. I like the idea. I don't know. My lowbrowness just pictures people staring in the mirror the rest of the day, cross-eyed, and that pleases me to the fucking 18th degree. And I get to make a Mallrats reference out of it. This is the fucking greatest day of my life. What's going on? Because again, you were a guy that believed in the old JC. And then in heaven, all these things, you became an agnostic, outed as an atheist incorrectly by some terrible person. And then she's fine. She's a great person. I love her. She's great. I hope she listens. And then I know, doing these things, scaring the shit out of yourself, taking deep breaths, trying to have the ego death, like where does that put you like after that? Like where are you then?
I guess I've gone from a place that I was, as soon as I had acid, I was like, this is a medicine, and like can sometimes be just like a vacation without having to spend $2,000 going somewhere or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna do this once a month just to like reset a little bit. And I did do that for maybe a couple years, and I had friends that I told that I would do that, and they they were like, oh, he's doing hard drugs. Yeah. And then over time, I've found like I've needed it less and less often. I mean, I still recreationally will do that. And I've gone through like ketamine therapy in the past year and a half. Yeah. But I think like the ultimate, like people are worried about like, I'll take this drug and I'll change forever or whatever. And I did change, but I think that like you will change in very positive ways if you use this as a tool to sort of like approach your own self and reapproach life with wonder, and you will find more meaning everywhere, and not be afraid of it. Yeah, I think overall, like the best way that this has worked for me is I'm just less afraid about life. I'm less afraid about dying. I'm not saying that I'm not afraid to die. Like I want to live as long as possible, but the fear there, capital F fear, like it's lessened, and I at least know how to reckon with it, I guess.
Yeah, I can attest to the same things you said about the reset, specifically the reset, and then the benefits of microdosing. I mean, we're not going to go full balls out pro mushrooms, but yeah, I mean, kind of pro mushrooms. Well, but not like necessarily like the larger lose your fucking marbles doses where you do have sort of an inside your body, outside your body experience, but those are definitely like moments where you learn some shit about your existence and your being, for sure.
Yeah, I think it said before, like those days were like, they definitely changed me. I was never the same after doing those things. So yeah, it was totally medicinal, totally opened my mind to some different ideas. Though when I went into it, that was obviously not what I was thinking. It was just, that's what my friends were doing, and that sounded like a good time. But it was definitely changed me. But like we're saying now, like now they have these different therapies that involve different types of psychedelics and things. So, and I know that you and I talked at a bar watching a band about the ketamine thing, because I was considering that, and like I looked into the one that they send you, like that you like Facebook advertises, and they're like, hey, we'll send you some ketamine and you take it and you write in a journal and all that. I looked at I think it's called Spravato, which is something that's administered by a doctor that kind of does that for you. And that's a nasal spray, but it's the same thing. You have to do at least twice a week, and you have to have 3 hours at a time to do it. So, and that's over a long period of time. So it's hard to figure that out. But I guess I'm curious, like what your experiences were with that. I know we talked on it like personally, briefly, but how does that compare like medicinally to the things that you did yourself?
They give you a dosage that's like not going to completely dissociate you, but it will dissociate you enough to think about your problems more objectively. And I bet, probably not the people that are going to listen to this, but a lot of people would be like, taking a drug and you think about your life more objectively, like that's horseshit. It's just drugs. But this legitimately, like you go into one of these sessions with intentions or like a problem that you're struggling with, and you think about that, and you're able to bring yourself outside of your own head, view your own actions or others with more empathy. Over a 6-month period that I did it, I grappled with stuff that I had been just avoiding for years. It was more useful to me those 6 months than the years of therapy I had done beforehand. I'm a huge advocate for ketamine therapy. I feel like anyone who's going through.
Well, to be fair, I mean, just so everybody understands it, that would listen, but it is taking the ketamine and having the time. You said like the blinders on, and then you lay down and kind of enjoy it, and then you're supposed to journal after the fact, right? I don't know if you did that, but those are the things I read. You're supposed to write down, and so you're almost like, and again, if you did this in a supervised, you just basically have a doctor there, and they're a medical doctor, so they're not really going to be there to help you talk through things. That's not their job. I think they're just there to monitor that you're okay. But the journaling and stuff is basically you taking control of your own shit and having to write your own shit down and figure your own shit out. So you don't really have help with that, right?
Right. I mean, this program, you can request people to talk to beforehand, to talk to about the intentions, what you're going to think about. And then they can also jump on a call with you a couple hours later and talk through that with you. So, and there are programs where it's more direct, like you go to a place, you sit there, and eventually your therapist or psychiatrist walks in and you talk through it. I could see that being super valuable. For me, I did that for a couple sessions where, there was like a Zoom call before and afterwards, but I very quickly was like, I kind of know what's going on. And I would rather just spend the extra time journaling. But yeah, you enter it as a therapeutic experience. You block out all the light, make everything like feel really peaceful where you're at, and make sure everything's quiet. You put on noise canceling headphones if you can, and you just listen to music and lay down and look at the back of your eyelids for a couple hours. And you do come to, and it's a very soft landing, and you just kind of journal about what you just experienced.
I mean, how's it compare though? Like, do you feel like it's still like hallucinations? Does it feel the same way? And I asked that personally because I think you and I talked about it. Like my problem is that I can't even imagine, especially, being 44 and a father and like all the fucking responsibility that I have, like not having a fucking panic attack, just even thinking about doing something like that anymore. I don't know how chill that is, especially, considering, your experiences are like newer and mine are so many years ago.
Yeah, I would say this one is like a cheerful disassociation, if there can be. Like, it's very kind, and it can go to a dark place. I had a bad experience on it one time. I didn't eat all day. I was super tired. I freaked out in the middle of it, and I called the person who was there to watch me to come sit with me, and I regretted it immediately afterwards. But like, they don't give you a dose that's high enough to
not the K-hole, not kids in the K-hole.
Yeah.
I have a couple.
I don't know what that experience is like. I've never experienced a K-hole. So
I have not done this, but you both have tried the therapeutic version.
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, I was curious about it, and that's why when I just happened. I don't know why. Did I bring it up to you? I swear I did.
Yes.
Or did you? I don't know how that works.
I think you did. Yeah.
Like literally in a bar, I'm just like, I want to do ketamine for my mind, and he's like, I just did.
You mean in the past? Okay. But no, I had heard that it in a controlled dose, will cure depression, not like forever, not permanently, but it cures depression. Also, I'm not fully aware, but I heard that it was a horse tranquilizer by design, like that was the original intention for it, but then they found that the kids that were using it were actually clearing depression. And they were like, oh.
I don't know about its origins. I tried it because I was like at my wit's end with depression.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, suicidal, but I was, I would say like maybe socially suicidal. I was ready to just nuke everything in my life and stop talking to everybody I knew and quit my job and just run away from everything. And I was obsessed with it for months. And yeah, this was just a thing. I was like, I can throw $2,000 at this, try drugs over the internet, which is hilarious. And walked away like it being way more meaningful and serious than I thought. But yeah, it absolutely, it's used for depression now. Like there are, I think, ways the nasal thing, Eric, you were talking about, I think you can get those at like much smaller, like therapeutic doses that you take throughout the week and don't like need to clear your calendar.
No, I'm for that. That's what I need. I need to get shit done and slightly trip balls to clear my all my depression.
But that's just really interesting, though, that you
better than an SSRI.
So you are saying dissociation, not disassociation, like
I was, yeah.
Okay,
Now I'm
awesome.
trying to like,
Yeah, that's with the blinders on. What specifically does that do for the experience?
Yeah, you put just like an eye mask on. They send you this really fancy eye mask, and honestly, the eye mask, it has this like a pad around the eye, so you can keep your eyes open the whole time. But when you're just looking into darkness, you actually like you see a lot of things you would see in a psychedelic experience. It's very like tame, but you get to see like shapes and all that. And like blocking out light helps with that, because otherwise you like see the things in your room, like you become very sensitive to light, so you just see the shit in your room and focus on that.
Now, have you, without that, you ever use an eye mask and just like visualize stuff? Like, can you now close your eyes and visualize things with your eyes closed?
Oh, I've never thought about that. This is like the mirror thing.
Yeah. I do that. I've always done that. I was talking with my fiance about this actually too, and like, I can just visualize stuff with my eyes closed. But it seems like there's a thing where people weren't able to do that. Not everyone is able to do that, apparently.
Like people who don't have inner monologues and shit.
Maybe, yeah. That was part of the conversation, was about the inner dialogue in our heads and things like that.
Now we have 2 homework assignments.
Yeah, I know. Pull my eye mask out of the drawer.
Well, now I need to try ketamine. I mean, thanks for listening, Mom and Dad.
It's medicine. I think that's the whole point. Like, yes, maybe we did some of these things for fun, but it ends up being medicine. And that was like the appeal to me too, is that like when I read about it, it was like you just said, it wasn't taking medicine every day. And I've been on a lot of medicines for depression and anxiety, and they're hard to get on, they're hard to get off. And I have friends that are in psychiatry that I try and explain to them the challenge of saying, you should try this. It's going to make you better. Maybe. And you'll find out in 3 months. But also over those 3 months, for some of us, you're going to be so fucking useless because you're going to be slow. You're not going to think the same. And that maybe in those 3 months after that, you'll be fine and you'll be better than you were before. But if you're not, then I'm going to have to prescribe you something else to try. And we're going to have to wean off one and put you on another. And you're going to be a fucking zombie for that entire period.
That's what we call a baseline crapshoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is not appealing. So like when I was reading about the ketamine and it said that people had results and they could put hours into it instead of just wasting, months of my life just like finding out that this thing doesn't work. That seemed very appealing to me to something to try. But carving out even like 3 hours at a time can be challenging sometimes for some of us. I mean, I guess the other thing that we talk about a lot, or want to talk about more on here, is that you did have experiences with DMT as well, but just once or twice, or how many times have you done that?
I think 3 times. I don't know what to say about that. Like you hear lots of people talk about people see similar things while they're experiencing it. I honestly, it's a hard thing to take. It's a very harsh thing to inhale. So I don't think there's only one time I felt like it worked for the full amount of time. In that experience, I heard the voice of my future daughter speaking to me. So that was cool.
Whoa.
How did you know that's what it was? Just like implanted?
Did she tell you?
Well, I mean, she talks. Like she talked to me.
But she said that. She's like, what's up? Let me, hold on, it's impression time.
Yeah.
Ready?
Well, I don't want to necessarily just move away from this one right away.
Daughter.
Yeah, like what was said? How did you know?
It was a similar kind of thing. Like in a dark room, shut out all light and sound, and because like it's a powerful thing. You'll see a lot of stuff, but if something else is going on around you, it's very distracting. So like I think the first or second time I did it, I could hear a bird outside the window, and that was all I could think about the whole time. So you have to it's with anything like set and setting. But no, in this experience, like I was kind of I was coming up and I was feeling scared, and I heard this soothing voice, and she was just saying like, you're going to be all right. Everything's all right. And I was like, how do you know? And she's like, because you haven't met me yet. And I was like, I don't even know who you are. Like, who are you? And she said, you know who I am. And I was like, you're my daughter. And I like immediately just felt and a wave over my body, through my body. And she's like, that's yes. And I'm like, tell me more about you. Like, when am I going to meet you? And you know, and what's your name and all of this. And she's kind of answering some of them, but then saying to a lot of them, like, you already know the answer to this, or you'll find out soon. Yeah, it was like one of the more powerful experiences I'd had on a substance like that. But again, I don't have kids, so.
Not yet.
How long ago was this?
Yeah.
This was probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're not done with your birthing ages. You can still make a baby. So
That's true.
at the time, did you feel like that was totally legit? Did you come out of it and be like, I saw the future?
Yeah. Yeah. And I immediately wanted to tell everybody. I was like, I know this is crazy, and yeah, maybe it's just a drug experience, but it was so cool. Like, it was so like freeing to hear, emotionally powerful. And I was like, it doesn't matter if it's bullshit. That was awesome. Like,
yeah, well, however it feels. I mean,
yeah.
What did you see when you were doing that? Was there anything that went along with that made sense, or?
I don't remember anything visually, which is abnormal, I think, for DMT. Like, lots of times people see, like, the first time I ever had it, I saw the ceiling fan in my room turn into a clown circus, and it was kind of scary and funny. But
man, I would not be comfortable with clowns on DMT.
There seems to be a thing about gestures and things with that, which is weird that everybody sees them.
Really?
Elves
for a lot of
that's
them.
the thing?
Yeah. Like,
whoa.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe that's because everyone's scared of clowns. And,
I don't think
not
so.
Everybody's scared of clowns.
Well, but that's kind of like what Parker was saying. Like, there's like lots of shared experiences of people that take it and see the same things, though they have nothing to do with each other, and that seems to be a consistent thing. Which again, like, how's that? If it's not real, like, how's that baked into our brain that we all see that stuff? I don't know.
That is
It's
very
interesting.
strange.
God is a clown.
Well, I mean, like, honestly, in my life, it would be dangerous for you to approach me as a clown because I might attack you. Like, you know,
that's the one thing that turns this man violent.
Joel in the spirit world fucking shit up.
Like, yeah, you ever see those videos where they have clowns like in parking garages ready to scare people as they come out to their cars, and they scare the shit out of them, and these people are running away screaming, like, yeah.
So you're saying do those videos again, but put those people also on DMT.
Oh my God.
Just fuck them up.
Oh my God.
Oh shit. Oh. Well, I mean, I guess
clowns are scary.
It's probably been a while since you've done that. Is it something you want to do again? Do you think that? I mean, I don't know. Like, looking back at it now,
yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like it was bullshit? Because you and I have talked about it before, and you kind of like were like, I don't feel like it was as life changing of an experience as I wanted you to tell me. I think that's what I was asking. That's
my general experience out of all of this stuff is like going into it being like, this could potentially change my life forever. And then it kind of doesn't, or it does in small ways over time. Yeah, I would absolutely do it again. I've heard they could put it into vaporizers now, and that sounds a lot more agreeable. I'm not a big smoker, but yeah, I would recommend it to anyone too. It's short. It's 15 minutes. You're in, you're out. You see some weird things. Hopefully you hear some things that help you, and it's not addictive. It's already in your brain.
It's everywhere. I guess not that it's a sales pitch, because you're not actually a drug salesman.
Don't buy these
dealer,
things.
But you can't really compare like which
drugs,
what gave you the most enlightening experience, right? There's no, I mean, not enlightening, but like, what's the one that was most meaningful? I don't know if there's a way to say that. Which one was the most of a mind bender?
Talking to my daughter, like, as a person who walks through much of his life and has thought like, I'm not going to have kids, I still look back on that and think like, oh, one day I'm going to get to meet her, and I can't wait.
You better start calling some ex-girlfriends. She could already be here. You don't even know.
We're just going to throw up Parker's digits on the screen. So
this is
if anyone needs to help or wants to help, we can.
Yeah, that'd be good. I was thinking it'd be more like Maury Povich. Like, we do some fucking paternity tests and shit once this kid's out. He's a handsome
already
dude.
out there. Know.
Yeah.
Just waiting for a paternity test.
That was inappropriate. I don't even know if you're in a relationship with somebody who might hear this and be mad at me. You can take it out on me. I didn't know.
I mean, I
That's
guess
true.
after again, like this kind of started with like, you know, you and I feeling dark and feeling like shit was a little meaningless. Like where do you really put yourself then on that scale? And you're probably going to say something optimistic here, maybe, and it's going to shock me because I don't know. And maybe it's just because you're feeling more open because we're having beverages and talking into microphones, which usually lightens people up.
I would say like a year and a half ago, I would have said this is all pointless and it means nothing at all. And it doesn't really matter what we do. But you can take that line of thinking into some pretty dark places. Post, you know, work on myself and therapy and ketamine therapy and just kind of removing some darkness from my life. I think the what I feel is that like it's true there is no meaning to all of this, and yet we cannot help but look around and find an infinite meaning. I believe that I don't know that I believe in a God so much as I believe in the idea that we exist to create things as humans. Like the most like godlike thing we can possibly do is to make something or to bring something new into the world, whether it's children or music or words or kindness to people or food, like that we need to create. And if you're not creating, you're killing. Yeah, we should honor the part in us that wants to create.
I like that.
It's the deepest thing I've ever heard from you.
Well, I started to get really embarrassed about saying all that in front of you.
Yeah, I have a tendency to do that to people. But you know what? Well, you know what? And that's good because I think like the thing we touched on.
You're going to pick on me for that later.
No, I think it's good. But you know what? That's kind of like, again, the point of this for me, when the selfish part that's like, this is supposed to be cheaper than therapy for me, right? Like it takes work. It isn't like you just do like, I did DMT, I talked to my daughter, saw a jester, and I'm fine. Like everything's fine.
Yeah.
It takes more work than that for like some people. But I think it kind of, it makes me feel better to know that people that I respect feel like there's more. Like, you know, because I'm not saying I don't. Like, I'm pretty open to shit, but like, I have a tendency to be dark and to go those places because like my depression and things takes me there. Like when things aren't going my way, you know. But I think that's why this is useful. And again, I think it can also be, you know, I think it was good for everybody we talked to. I think, you know, Kai got some shit off his chest. I feel like you get some shit off your chest. But, you know, when we talked about this before, and I meant for this to be something we covered earlier in the more sober part of the conversation, was like when we talked about doing this, you were like, I don't want to do it. Or you were dodging me. It was kind of the same thing that like gave me a hard time with spinning this thing up to begin with, was that, number one, will this keep me thinking about dark things? You know what I mean? Because like, it is a little dark to talk about these things that I was trying to exercise anyway. Like, and that I think that's kind of like where you were at too, right? Like, but you also said like you felt better and like maybe you don't need this, and those are the things I struggle with doing this.
Yeah, I mean, when you threw out this idea and as like a joke to me, and then asked me to go to lunch with you, and then told me you were very serious and you already had a name and you were like lining up hosts and shit. And so, but in between then and now, like I was in like a dark spot. I was going through some life changes, and you're right. I separately said to you that like it would be hard to do this because like I feel okay right now. Do I really want to go back to the spot where I'm thinking about when things were dark, or do I really want to like delve deep into existential topics right now when like there's a lot of other life going on? But I'm glad that I did. It's meaningful and powerful to talk about this stuff, and I'm glad you now think of me as more optimistic.
Well, and I hope that like in the end, like, you know, as it grows, if it grows, that it will help other people. And I think like what I'm looking for at some point is like feedback that it is helping people. And like I said, even bringing people on that maybe don't have something magical to say and something cool that helped them, and it just feels shitty. And it's like, well, come on and let's figure it out.
You do realize that at this point we're going to have my parents on.
Oh, I want this. Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna have to happen.
Well, that's fine. I mean, they are. Yeah. Who's gonna listen?
Great.
Who's gonna fucking listen? Like nobody, because they. Well, Well, cool. Well, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you finally deciding to come on. Yeah, I think it went well.
I feel like I just talked about myself the whole time. Did I fuck this up?
That was the point.
Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like this one was like,
right.
yeah, it's supposed to be you and your adventure. That's what. Did you miss that part? Did you really listen to the other ones? I don't think you did.
no,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
There's the self-criticism.
Joel died. Okay. And I just like took drugs a few times and gave up on God. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you are kind of boring. Maybe we'll get rid of this one.
that feels better. Also, as a last parting thing before anything else happens, everybody should test your drugs. Like there are tools out there. Dance Safe, I think, is one. There's others. Like test everything you're given or you take. Don't take stuff willy nilly. Like the shit's serious. There's crazy stuff going on around there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do illicit drugs. Drugs are bad. Okay.
Yeah, drugs are drugs. Take that, Nancy Reagan.
Drugs are drugs.
Yeah, that's the t-shirt we all need right now.
And if you're listening and you want to come on these guys' show, do it. As a guest, they are very kind, honorable, nice guests.
Aww.
And come on their show.
Well, thank you for saying that.
All
Appreciate
right.
you, Parker. Not Parker.
Not Parker. I like that better. You know what? I had so many names picked out for you when you said you were going to go.
Tell me one.
What was the one I said earlier? Like pudding mansplain or
Mansplain.
Dilby fartbagger? I don't know. I'm just making them up now.
I think the message you sent me before I joined, you can cut this out, is you said, fucker.
Well,
That sounds like him.
that's
Yeah.
probably something I've called you before. Yeah, we don't want that swearing on here. We better cut that one
You
out.
said, let me know when you're free. It's all good. And then you said, fucker with 5 exclamation marks.
You were late. I was afraid you were going to ghost on me. See how I tied that in, ghost.
The 5 exclamation marks.
I was afraid you weren't going to show up. Like you're like, nah, I'm fine. I'm not going to do it today. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I'm glad to.
Yeah, well, our friendship was dependent upon it. So
I just see him writing it down on a piece of paper and sliding it across the table. And you just open it up and it says "fucker" with 5 exclamations.
Yeah, I'm lowbrow. If anybody hasn't picked that up from now, I mean, you guys have known for a long time. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks for hanging out, and we'll call this a wrap. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.